And this is crucial for all the listeners, is that most people don't reach their potential because they come to the edge of their beliefs, what's possible in their life, and they back down. They're too uncomfortable. And what I mean by coming to the edge of their beliefs is I mean they come to the edge of their feelings. They come to points where they're so uncomfortable and they're like, oh, this is so scary. The subconscious is saying, whoa, 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 be careful, be careful. And then they resist the moment. They back away or they get tentative or whatever it is. And so the way we expand what we believe is possible is kind of like the fundamental aspect of inner excellence is we're going to go look for those feelings of discomfort. The most important thing for your life is you embracing the feeling. But if you embrace the feeling and the outcome's terrible, it only cares how you feel. You're going to grow and you're going to be someone, do things you've never done before.
Jim, you are very welcome to the ScaleX Insider podcast. Absolutely delighted and thrilled to have you on the show today.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
You're very welcome. I'm really looking forward to this conversation because I've absolutely devoured and defaced your book and went down the rabbit hole of your work in the last number of months. To kick off, I have a tradition with an opening question. So our vision, Jim, is to inspire, connect, and enable millions of ambitious leaders of small and medium-sized businesses to scale with purpose. So Jim, what does scaling with purpose mean to you?
Well, when I think of that phrase, I think of impacting the world. How can I, like, what is my purpose? Why am I on this earth? And how can I live that out? And, it really goes along with inner excellence. Inner excellence is kind of focused on the idea that the biggest obstacle that we have is our own selves. We get in our own way, and I call it this self-centeredness that leads to fear is our biggest challenge. And the solution is love. Well, love, wisdom, and courage. And there's no fear in love. And so if you want to make an impact on the world, then courage is probably the biggest, most common characteristic of the best performers in business and life and sports that I've seen, because most people never reach their potential because they're afraid, and they're afraid to be afraid. Where the most successful people in any endeavor are afraid, but they're not afraid to be afraid, and that's the big difference.
So that's a wonderful anchor for our podcast, getting comfortable with being uncomfortable, we talk about, but not being afraid to be afraid. I have never heard that phraseology before, so I'm keen to dig into that today, and especially love, wisdom, and courage. Love is not something you typically hear from someone who has spent their career understanding what it is to perform at the highest level in sport and in business. So I'm keen for you to share with our listeners a little bit of your background, because you went from playing professional baseball for the Chicago Cubs to actually spending 5 years then in the Sonoran Desert. So staying on purpose and on the topic of purpose, what was the purpose for you to go into the Sonoran Desert after playing professional baseball?
Yeah, so my identity was completely wrapped up in my role as a professional athlete, and when I lost it, I felt like I lost everything. And so I'm driving a truck for FedEx in downtown Seattle, and I get asked to coach a high school baseball team, and I had no interest in coaching, and that went really well. And I ended up getting a master's degree in coaching science, and I get a job at the Texas Rangers. Um, and then that was really, really hard. I left mid-season, and I thought like my identity was Jim Murphy, pro baseball player. And then I get injured and lose it after 5 years of playing in the minor leagues. And then so I felt like Jim Murphy nobody. And then I get this job as a Texas Rangers coach, also in the minor leagues. And then I leave that, and I felt like a total loser. And then I felt like I was nobody again. And then I I coached in the Olympics. That was amazing. Um, but again, then that finished, and then who am I again? And I get a call from a teammate in pro baseball and said, "Can you come to the desert to help me launch a baseball academy for the weekend?" And I just decided, well, what if I went down there and helped you out part time? And I wanted to come face to face with my true self. I wanted to find out, like, why am I here on this earth? What am I meant to do? And I wanted to find something that I could devote my life to, that I was willing to live and die for. And so I gave away over half my possessions, and including my TV, so I could go live this relatively solitary life and figure out what to do with my life. And that's where Inner Excellence was born.
Was that the greatest outcome of the time you spent in the desert, or what were some of the other the insights that ultimately led to inner excellence during that time in the desert?
Well, the screensaver on my laptop said, "Those destined for greatness must first walk alone in the desert," and that's when I got the call from my friend in the desert, and I decided to literally do that. And I get there, and I don't know. I have no plans. What am I going to do with my life? I don't know what I'm doing there, and it was lonely and it was tough. But when I get there, I decided to after a while, I decided to become a personal coach to professional baseball players and teach them how to have peace and confidence under pressure. And my first few athletes did amazing. And so that's when I decided, okay, I'm going to put together a little manual for future clients on how to have peace and confidence under the most pressure. And I decided to call up a sports psychologist and ask him, how can an Olympic athlete train for 4 years for an event that may last less than a minute and have peace and confidence with so much out of their control? And I just didn't get any good answers. So I called another and another, and I spent 5 years full time writing and researching that question. And several important things came out of that research. First was I realized I don't want to devote my life to helping someone be really successful, tangibly successful, winning an Olympic gold medal or becoming world number one or making millions of dollars if it wasn't meaningful. Um, because then what good is my life? Like, I mean, I could help someone be really, really successful, and then they're just not a good person. And was that even a good thing for the world? And so I was really kind of struggling with that. And then I came on. I understood this new concept that really changed my life, and it was this: the path to having the most peace and confidence under the most pressure is the same path, the same training as living the best possible life. And when I say the best possible life, I mean a life filled with deep contentment, joy, and confidence, independent of circumstances. A life filled with love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, self-control. This is what I see as the best possible life, and we all have the chance to live it.
This is so profound. I mean, peace and confidence under pressure. We all want this. I want to give you a little bit of context in the context of inner excellence and why it's important in relation to actually scaling, because less than 1% of small and medium sized businesses ever achieve scale, despite the fact that those 1% who do are contributing more than 50% of total SME revenue. So these businesses are so important to our communities, to our society, and to economies at large. And actually, fear of failure, fear of judgment, fear of letting go. These are all fears that actually impede these leaders in actually scaling their business. So just to anchor the importance of your work in relation to the business community, it's so critically profound that we understand this. So let's unpack this. There's a number of things that you've said already. Love, wisdom, courage. Not being afraid to be afraid, not attaching yourself to certain outcomes, which ultimately, if they don't happen, then you feel that actually your identity has been shattered, and then this profound statement of finding peace and confidence under pressure. So where do we begin with this? Because ultimately,
Yeah.
I feel that for those listening, if they can access this state, then ultimately the fear that's gripping them, that's impeding them now, that's preventing them from realizing their leadership capability, that's actually preventing others from accessing their wonderful products or services, which is actually preventing them from developing their teams and their organization, and ultimately the communities and society and economies at large. Is if we can get to the nub of this, then we create a
Sure.
wonderful ripple effect. So
So
let's start.
the first thing is I think it's helpful for people to know that the book was originally published in 2009, the first version, and the title was Inner Excellence: Train Your Mind for Extraordinary Business Success. And one of the most important things I think about when I think about business is a lesson that I learned in my life is the problem with a single story. And what I mean by that is I had a single story for my life, the way that it had to work. And when it didn't work like that, I was so devastated that I almost had a mental breakdown. I was, and this was not even after the whole injury and losing my athletic career. It was after coming out of the desert and writing Inner Excellence. I'd isolated myself for 5 years, 2.5 years in the desert, and we're created for relationship. And so coming out of that, had a near mental breakdown, $90,000 in debt, and um, just a lot of fear. And if you want to be successful in life, like I shared earlier, courage is the quality that I see most common with the most successful people. It's the willingness to fail, and um, the understanding that the if you're an entrepreneur, the vision that you have for your business may be a good one, but likely um, there's a completely different path that's meant for your business that you don't know yet. And don't hold on to that vision that you say. What we want to hold on to is your learning and growth and trying things and being. So one of the five, Inner Excellence has 5 skills. And one of the 5 is to adapt to any situation. And that's what the greatest in business do, is they're able to adapt, and they're not attached to a single story for their life and for their business.
I want to get to the 5 skills, and courage you've mentioned, and it's interesting because I interviewed Professor Ranjay Galati, who's just released a book called How to Be Bold. He's a professor in Harvard, and we went deep on how to be courageous. But love is not something that's not is not something typically explored on a business podcast. So I want to ensure people don't feel that this is abstract, or oh no, look, the guys are talking about love, and right now I have an issue with lead generation, or with reaching more customers, or I have an issue with my team. And where does love come into this? So what, without it sounding abstract, Jim, you're dealing with athletes performing at the highest level. You're dealing with business leaders performing at the highest level.
Mm.
How do we explain to our listeners the importance of love, and how do we actually train for this?
Yeah, it's a great question. So there's a couple of things when I think of love. One is that it's fearless. There's no fear in love. And another thing I think of is passion. And passion literally means to suffer. It's the willingness to suffer. And so one of the other skills is to compete with freedom and passion. And um, also, when I think of love, and in English language, love is a word used mostly for romance or for pleasure, or both. And that's not the kind of love I'm talking about. I'm talking about sacrificial love, the kind that leads to joy. And joy is like the pillar for self-control. Joy is the power behind being willing to take risks. If you want to be great, you've got to take risks, and you've got to be willing to fail. You've got to be willing to look foolish. So, I mean, I'll tell you a story about a pro golfer. We're Saturday night. She's tied for the lead going into Sunday for the major. She'd never won a major before. She's top 20 in the world, but never won a major. And she was really nervous. And um, one of the things I told her several things, but she was really concerned about making mistakes. And I said, well, um, you've won multiple times on the LPGA tour already. Like, how did you do on Sundays before when you won? Were you perfect? And she kind of laughed, like, no, far from it. I made a lot of mistakes, but I won. And so I was like, okay, so you don't have to be perfect. You can make mistakes. And I said, here's what's going to happen tomorrow. You're going to be very nervous. And I want you to understand how this is going to work. So let's imagine you've been nervous 100 times in your career, and 95 you played amazing, and five you did not. Your subconscious has two main roles. Your subconscious is really what's running your life, working with your heart. And the first role is to protect you, and the second role is to line up your results and circumstances with your beliefs. And beliefs are a subconscious comfort level with what you feel is possible in your life. And so, of the 100 times you played when you're nervous, the 95 when you played great, your subconscious does not need to protect you from those. It protects you from feelings, mostly from scary feelings. And so the 95, it's like, oh, okay, give that a pass. The five where you felt terrible, those are the ones it wants to protect you from. And it does it by embedding the memory. And so what's going to happen is tomorrow you're going to be very nervous. And the feeling of nerves you're going to feel is going to be identical to the ones when you didn't play well. When you played great and didn't play great, it's going to feel the same. And your subconscious is going to say, whoa, 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 be careful, be careful. But you're going to remember what I just told you, that 95 times you played great. These are nerves that are going to be helpful and important for you. And what you do with them is going to be really important. And this is crucial for all the listeners, is that most people don't reach their potential because they come to the edge of their beliefs, what's possible in their life, and they back down. They're too uncomfortable. And what I mean by coming to the edge of their beliefs is I mean they come to the edge of their feelings. They come to points where they're so uncomfortable and they're like, oh, this is so scary. The subconscious is saying, whoa, 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 be careful, be careful. And then they resist the moment. They back away or they get tentative or whatever it is. And so then the next time they come to that feeling and they try and avoid that feeling at all costs. What we do with inner excellence is the work that I do, it doesn't have to be with a pro athlete or Olympic athlete. It could be with anybody. It could be with a janitor, a teacher, a CEO. It doesn't matter because it's all the same. Very, very little changes depending on who I'm with. There's three pillars of inner excellence. It's belief, freedom, and focus. BFF, best friends forever. And belief is really the key there. Freedom is the biggest thing that's lacking because people are afraid to fail because of so much comparison now with social media. And so the way we expand what we believe is possible is kind of like the fundamental aspect of inner excellence is we're going to go look for those feelings of discomfort. We're going to visualize ourselves letting go of our past so we can become someone we've never been before. And we're going to visualize those moments where in the past we've been tentative or been afraid. And we're going to see ourselves embracing that moment, that feeling. And we're going to do it by asking ourselves some questions regularly. And the questions are, am I willing to face my fears? Am I willing to fail? Am I willing to look foolish? And especially, am I willing to face any feeling and sit with it even if it never goes away? And then the number one thing here is to understand the most important thing out of whatever happens. Say you're really nervous over some big presentation or some big meeting. The outcome is the least important thing. The most important thing for your life is you embracing the feeling. Because say the outcome is the worst thing that you ever wanted, and Well, first of all, you don't know what's best for you. All you know is what you want, but the best thing for you may be not to get what you want. And then, but it doesn't matter what happens with the outcome, because if you really resist it and you're so uncomfortable and you don't like this feeling, you run from it, even if you get a good outcome, you're going to face that problem again and again. But if you embrace the feeling and the outcome's terrible, embrace the feeling, outcomes, you keep looking for the feeling, embracing it, because your subconscious doesn't care what the outcome is. It only cares how you feel. That's what beliefs are. Beliefs are feelings. And so if you keep embracing that and you don't run from those feelings, eventually you're going to get comfortable in these moments, and then you're going to grow and you're going to be someone, do things you've never done before.
So I suspect everyone listening will be able to grasp this at an intellectual level. But something that comes up for me when you say this, something I heard years ago, is that those negative feelings stick to us like Velcro, whilst the positive ones slide off us like Teflon. And it sounds like our subconscious is this Velcro that is attracting or sticking to it those situations, those circumstances that have caused us some harm, some discomfort in the past, and they stay there. Whereas the kind of the positive feelings just they kind of disappear because from a subconscious perspective, they're not relevant. They don't present any significant danger. They're not a threat to us. So it seems like our subconscious is just this collection of all of these things that we perceive as a threat. So that's what kind of comes up for me. But in terms of embracing the feeling, that's easy to say. What does that look like in practice? So you talked about just preceding that, like visualizing this situation that's very uncomfortable. What Just expand on that a little bit more, and what other practices can our listeners engage with or do on a daily basis that will
Yeah.
support them in kind of embracing this feeling? Because I suspect this goes back to getting to the point where you're not afraid to be afraid.
Yeah, right, exactly. So inner excellence, the number one goal is to learn and grow every day. So, and the mindset of inner excellence is I compete or I lead to raise the level of inner excellence and to raise the level of excellence in my life, to learn and grow in order to raise it in others. And in our quest to learn and grow and let go of the single story we have for our lives, and just it doesn't mean let go of that vision. It means let go of your attachment to that's how it has to be, because there's almost very often better paths to achieve your dreams that you can see right now. Um, and so we have four daily goals. And the first one is to give 100% of what you have today. Second one is to be present. The third one is to be grateful. The fourth one is to focus on your routines and only what you can control. So the first one, I had this experience a few weeks ago. I was working on another book and we had a big deadline. And so I was 12 nights in this cabin in central New Jersey, and I was up late, not a lot of sleep. And then I had two in-person interviews in Manhattan. Like, I thought it was going to be a 2-hour drive, and there was no way to get around. I was going to drive into, I almost said had to. I was going to drive into Manhattan because everything is a choice. I didn't have to. I was going to drive into Manhattan during rush hour, and I my GPS said about 2 hours, and it took almost 4 hours, and I was an hour late. And so I get to the studio, and they're all waiting for me, and they said, "Okay, we're ready to go." And not only did I have almost 4 hours in the car, but it was not in the most zen-like circumstance, rush hour in Manhattan, and I was driving by myself. And so I said, I just need to use the bathroom. I go to the bathroom and I'm like, man, I'm not feeling it today. Very little sleep for the last few weeks. And now I just got out of the car 5 minutes ago. And now they're like, okay, tell us everything. And so I remember the four daily goals. And I thought of the first one. The first one, give the best of what you have today. And some days are going to be 30 or 40% days, meaning there's some days when you're not feeling good at all. Maybe you don't have much sleep and you have a lot of stress and, a lot of things on your mind. And if you try to give 100% of your normal best, um, and you think you're going to have one of those days and you have those sort of expectations, then it's going to be a really frustrating day. But if you realize, okay, today is one of those days where I don't have a lot to give, but I'm going to give the best of what I do have. Today's a 30 or 40% day. So I'm in the bathroom and I was like, okay, because I was a little stressed when I got there and they're like, oh, there's no like, oh, let's take 20 minutes and let's do a little stretching. Let's get you hydrated, whatever, get some coffee. And they're like, okay, let's go right now. And so I was like, okay, I'm just going to give, today's a 30 or 40% day. I'm just going to give the best of what I have today. And that's all I can do. And it may not be very good. I've done over 200 interviews since January 12th. And I would say those two in-person interviews were two of the top 10. Maybe one of them would have been in the top five. And it was a big benefit thing that helped was letting go of my expectations and needs. That was super helpful. I don't need this to be a great one, and I'm just going to give my best.
Yeah, it comes back to the attachment to the outcome, which you have attached to your identity. If it's, I suspect in that moment it's a case of, well, if I don't perform well here, I'm the inner excellence guy. I'm the guy who's supposed to have all of this sorted. I'm coaching high performing athletes. I've got to be at the top of my game all of the time. I suspect that's part of the story. Does that
Yeah,
resonate? You're smiling. Does
yeah.
that
I'll,
does
I'll
that
tell you about that.
resonate?
I'll tell you about that because this reminds me of preachers or someone that preaches and or sounds like them preaching. And what I tell people is that no one wants to be preached to. And so if you're speaking to a group, rather than telling them what they should do, share your stories, share your life, because no one can argue with your story and what you've experienced. And with inner excellence, the truth is I need it more than anybody. And I've never said I'm good at inner excellence. And so I don't feel pressure that I've got to be great at inner excellence because one, I've never told anyone I was any good at it. And two, I know that I need it as much or more than anyone. And so if you're, I define humility as an accurate view of self, not overinflated or underinflated. And I see myself just as the messenger. I'm no one special. I'm just here to share this message that God has shared with me and that I've compiled from other people over the, I guess the last several thousand years. And if I thought I was the one that was like behind all this, it would be scary and stressful. Like, oh, I've got to perform. Jim Murphy has to be someone right now, and I can't make mistakes. That would be really scary. But I know that's not how it is.
Yeah, the so the understanding, creating that level of awareness in the context of learning and growing every day, letting go of the outcome, and being aware that actually today, based on 3 hours sleep, the some of the stresses that are going on in my life right now, 100% today is not should not be equated to 100% whenever I have had 8 hours sleep and life has been going
Hmm.
wonderfully. It's creating that
That's right.
level of awareness. Um, Gratitude you mentioned as part of learning and growing every day, being
Yeah,
present.
it's huge.
What else? Right. So learn and grow every day. Let's step through them. What are the other kind of steps to creating inner excellence?
When someone comes to me, um, well, first of all, they're going to fill out a long questionnaire. Well, it'll take them several hours to fill out. I want to. Interactions is about self-awareness, largely about self-awareness and developing self-mastery. And so, when I think of inner excellence, I think of self-mastery, and when I think of self-mastery, I think of mastering the ego. I define ego as the part of your mind that's always threatened, always comparing, never satisfied. And when I think of mastering the ego, I think of three things, which is to be unembarrassable, unoffendable, and unirritatable. The ego is that part of our mind that's always threatened, always comparing, never satisfied. It can push us to work harder, but also it's really a big source of fear and comparison that really hurts our ability to be present. And so I'm always thinking about how can I, is this my ego right here? I don't want to be dominated by my ego. I don't want to live constantly concerned what people think or if I fail. And um, I want to have an accurate view of self so I can see the world more clearly.
You mention in your book some of the obstacles to mastering our ego. You talk about it's based around our attachment to the affluenza virus and essentially the PALMS acronym. Can you share that what you mean by the affluenza virus?
Yeah. So when I think of the affluenza virus, I think of this of Western culture and this obsession with success, material success, which I describe in the with the acronym PALMS, PALMS, with possessions, achievements, looks, money, and status. And so the way it works is we have these five deep needs. The human heart has five deep needs, and the deepest need is for love and connection, for it to be accepted. And our ego says, look, if you get more achievements and more money, status, possessions, those sort of things, you're going to get that love and acceptance that you want. The problem is it's there's so much out of your control for that. And you may get all that and still not get the love and acceptance because um, when you get that, you're going to get a false love. It's like you're getting, it's like being an athlete or being the greatest hurler in the country. Um, they love you when you're doing well, but if you're making the team lose, you're not going to get the cheers. You're going to get the boos. And so that's like like a false peace. You can't tell what's in your heart by when you have good circumstances, because yeah, you have peace, but that's a false peace because it's just because your circumstances are good. We need to find out what's in your heart, the control center for your life. We need to find out when things are really tough. Then we find out what's in your heart.
Yeah, you talk in the book again, and one of the key insights for me was this idea of training the heart, not just the mind, which is fundamental to peak performance. Again, without that sounding abstract to the business leaders listening, how do we train our heart? If it is core to high performance on the sports field, high performance in business, what do we do to train our hearts?
Well, yeah, it's a very complex subject. Essentially, it's to love most what's most empowering. If we think about psychology or sports psychology, it's training the mind. And in excellence, the subtitle is "Train Your Mind for Extraordinary Performance and the Best Possible Life." I wanted to say "Train Your Heart," but I was like, people aren't going to understand that. And so we use the mind to train the heart. In other words, we're far more than thinking machines. We got to get far more than your thoughts. We got to get down to your spirit, your where your greatest fears are, and your greatest hopes and dreams are. And that's kind of those two things revolve around what you love most, because what you love most, you're going to fear most of losing, and that's your God, whatever that is, and you're going to be as stable as whatever that is. And so I want to help people to love most what's most empowering, and for me, that's the power that spins the earth and holds the stars in place and grows the grass.
What's the process you step people through, Jim, for them to really understand the essence of their spirits and their ultimate purpose on this planet and
Yeah.
to get to the core of their dream? that isn't a dream that has been imposed on them by their parents, by society, a dream that they think they want. I mean, how do you encourage people to strip back all of the noise, get to the essence of them, and
Well,
ultimately,
and yeah, that's exactly what we're going to do. Is we need to strip away the noise, and so say, for example, you called me and said, I really want to be much more successful in business. I have these fears and stresses, whatever, and so we're going to start by how you want to feel. I want to know how you want to feel when you're at your best, and also how you don't want to feel, because people come to me. One of the big things they want is confidence, and confidence is great, but confidence is very complex. For example, confidence is a feeling, and what affects how you feel? Well, your nutrition, how many hours of sleep you got last night and the last 10 nights, your VO2 max, your aerobic capacity, your relationships, your relationship that you've had in the last 24 hours with your spouse and closest friends, and what do your coworkers think of you, and what does your boss think of you, your teammates? All of that impacts performance, how you did the last time you tried to do whatever you're going to do next. And there's many aspects to it. And so there's something that's much more powerful than confidence, and which is what I help people focus on. And that's being fully present, fully engaged, heart, mind, and body, unattached to what you're trying to do. That's where the power is. And so now we've got to get into the heart, in your subconscious and your spirit. We've got to get far beyond just your thoughts. And thoughts lead to feelings, and feelings is now we're getting into your heart. And so when I start with somebody, I ask them, okay, when you're at your best, what's it feel like? And, so, and most people is very similar. They'll say some version of my mind is clear. I feel light and free and confident and strong, and those sort of things. And okay, what is it? How do you not want to feel? So this is WTF and DWTF. Want to feel, don't want to feel. And the DWTF, very common, like I don't want to feel anxious, stressed, fearful, lost, overwhelmed, those sort of things. And so we're going to start to help you understand yourself and design a life of habits of daily thought and action to get you to feel how you want to feel more often in your life. And what you're going to find is it's going to revolve around the pursuit of that feeling that comes from sacrificial love, which is joy. And joy I define as a deep sense of well-being and freedom and gratitude and inner buoyancy and delight that comes from sacrificial love.
something you said right at the outset, again, I read this over and over again and shared it actually with my young son who is pursuing a career in football at the moment. But being selfless leads to being fearless. Can you just unpack that a little because I think it's really powerful.
Yeah. Okay. Let's say your footballer is taking a penalty kick for the World Cup. What's the fear? The fear is that you might miss, right? Well, the key word in that is that you might miss, that I might miss. Missing is one thing, but if I'm the one that misses, that's really, really scary. If you're watching the World Cup and it's someone else taking it, if it's your teammate, there's some stress because you really want your part, it's part of you. But if you're watching some other team and the guy's kicking, there's not near the fear because it's not you or part of you. It's the fear is this self-centered future thing. What will happen to me if I don't get this? If I fail, what will people think of me? How will I be accepted or rejected, etc.? I'll be accepted if I get it, which is my greatest hope. I'm not just accepted. I'm going to get what I want most is that love, that amazing embracing of me. But if I don't make this shot, I'm going to get the worst thing, which is rejection of me. And so that's why it's so important the selfless is fearless. So let's imagine you encounter some great, beautiful moment. Maybe it's great art or a great movie, or you're enraptured by an amazing book, or you're standing at the foot of the Grand Canyon. What's going on there? Are you self-conscious? What are people thinking about me right now? No, there's no concern. There's no thoughts whatsoever of self when you're completely wrapped up in that amazing moment, right? That's what inner excellence is, to get more of those moments. It's a selfless and therefore fearless moment.
I mean, this is the Holy Grail, and sport invokes so many emotions when it's your team. You know, my father, his week would depend on the outcome of the game on Saturday, to how he would feel. If our local team won, he was absolutely jubilant. He was energized. You could the house would have a different feeling, where if they lost, you could feel this depression descend in the house as a result of his attachment to the outcome. I mean, ultimately, this is the Holy Grail, and everyone listening will be able to relate to a sporting moment in which their emotions were riding on whether the putt was made, the goal was scored, the basket was made, whatever it is. How do we reach a point where actually, because in the context of business, if we can reach this point of detachment from the outcome, then I'm confident that many more business leaders would scale and ultimately widen their impact and support themselves and others in reaching their potential.
Yeah, it's when you come to that moment that you're most nervous, asking yourself, what do I want more, to achieve success in this moment or to master my ego? In other words, do I want one-time success or long-term success? What do I want more? Obviously, the wise choice is long-term. And so if that's the case, you ask yourself in the moment, yes, I want to be successful right now, um, but even more, I want to have a career or a life where I have more success. Well, that means mastering your ego more than getting the success in the moment. And then you can remind yourself, I really want to be successful right here, but I don't know if this is best for me. The best thing for me may not be to get what I want. It may be to fail in this moment. Whereas, because has there ever been a time in your life where the thing that you really wanted most was actually not the best thing for you? And you're glad you didn't get it? I mean, that's happened to all of us, right? And so the thing is, we don't know when those moments are. And so reminding yourself that I don't know what's best for me here, and what I want most is to master my ego. So I'm not constantly in these moments where I'm just so stressed and afraid of the outcome. And if you say, okay, I really would, I do want to be successful here, but even more, I want to master my ego. Then you realize, okay, so the way that I get to master my ego is if I'm not successful here. Because if I'm successful, I'm like, okay, the moment's over. Whew, dodge the bullet. Oh, that's so great. You don't think of it anymore about the ego or anything. But it's if you don't get what you want, then you get the chance to embrace that moment. That's where you can grow. And growth is the key to life.
How do we then prevent ourselves from ruminating and constantly replaying the perceived failure? Again, everybody can relate to the missed
Yeah, well,
penalty, but
I was just talking to a pro athlete about this the other day. This is one of the key things that separates the best from the rest. Most people, when they fail, it's too big of a trauma. The bigger the failure, the bigger the trauma for most people. And that's why they never achieve their potential. Because the bigger the trauma, the bigger the subconscious is like, whoa, 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 don't ever let that happen again. It's going to embed it even stronger, give you even more fear next time. And so that's why it's so important. Like, when you have these moments to recognize what's going on here, I think it's the best thing for me. I really, really want it, but I don't know if it's best. What you do know is that you want to live a life with amazing experiences and deep, enriching relationships where you're learning and growing and making a difference in the world. What you do know is that your ability to see all the possibilities in your life, the best path is very, very limited. You can see the path that you see comes from the lens that you've built through your life and the limiting beliefs that you've had, and we all have limiting beliefs. That's what you can see. And it's a very, very small vision of what's possible for you. And so inner excellence is about constantly expanding what's possible for you by constantly letting go of who you've been so you can and become someone that you've never been before. And that means really embracing these feelings that are so uncomfortable. And when you have some sort of so-called failure, it's so important to recognize that that may be the best thing for you. Like I always like to tell this story. Say you're, I'm speaking to UConn men's basketball. They won two national championships in a row here in the States before last year. So I'm speaking to them tomorrow. And say you're at the free throw line. It's the season opener coming up, and it's you got a 1-on-1. You're down by one, and if you make the first one, you get another one to win. But if you miss the first one and there's 1 second left, then your team loses. And say you're the one at the free throw line. You're really nervous, and you miss the first free throw. Team loses. That's terrible, right? I mean, the team lost the first game of the year. It's been building up all off season. This is a big game. Why is it terrible? It's terrible because you didn't get what you wanted, right? Is it bad? Like, is it morally bad? Is it immoral? It's not immoral. It's you didn't get what you wanted. Is there a chance that not only it was not bad, but it was the best thing for your team? Definitely. The reason it could be the best thing for your team is because what happens when people have some sort of success is they generally relax a little bit. Whew, got what I wanted. What happens to champions when they don't get what they want is they generally work a little harder and they like what they want to learn. So, say for example, it's I know baseball's not huge in Ireland yet, but
NFL has just arrived, by the way, with their very first game in Croke Park 2 weeks ago. So there we go.
oh, nice,
Yeah.
nice. But say you have a one-on-one, maybe it's tennis. You have one-on-one tennis, and you're playing somebody, and then you lose against that person in the first match of the year. Could that be the best thing for you to lose the first match of the year to this person? Well, say you you work harder because you lost. The guy that beat you is like, oh, I've got that guy, beat him. And now you're playing at Wimbledon center court for the final 6 months later. And that guy's, oh, I beat that guy before. He's just relaxed just a little bit, maybe a little bit careless. It's like, oh, I've already beat this guy. I've got him next time. But you, as a champion, you lost that first one, and that pushed you to work harder. So now you take it up a notch. He takes it down a notch, and then you beat him in the center court final in a much more important event. Was it better for you to win that first match or lose?
Yeah. It reminds of me, I think it's the fable story of the Chinese farmer where, he won a horse in a local prize draw, and as the story goes, the neighbors come round, said, "That's just wonderful." And he said, "Maybe it is, maybe it isn't." And then the horses broke out. They ran away, and they came round, said, "Maybe we feel really sorry that you lost your horses. That's terrible." He says, "Maybe it is, maybe it isn't." And it goes on and so forth. His son breaks a leg in the horse. They think it's terrible. Then, because he's broken his leg, he doesn't have to conscript for the army. So, and ultimately in all of this, we never know whether something is good or bad for us. It's trusting that what I'm hearing, the path is laid out, and the more that we can get comfortable with being uncomfortable, the more that we can get embrace those feelings of fear, the greater probability there is of us actually realizing our potential, both scaling ourselves, scaling others, scaling the organization.
You
The
know, I've
just
got, can I, sorry to interrupt. I've got another example in sports, but it's golf. Do they have golf in Ireland?
Of course, Rory McIlroy. We've just,
I'm just
as
kidding. I'm just kidding.
I fell for it, Jim. I fell for it.
Yeah. No, I mean, I'm Irish and, Murphy you have so many amazing golfers in Ireland. Rory, of course, and Padraig Harrington has been, he's such a great guy. But I have a golf example for you. Um, and I was just thinking about this because I played my first round of the year. I love golf. And Padraig, if you hear this, let's golf. Um, or Rory. I was with Golf Digest. We spent a couple days together. We got to play at Winged Foot, which is they've had multiple U.S. Opens there. It's where Phil famously double bogeyed the final hole to lose by one in 2006. And it was my first round of the year. It was so much fun. But we're talking a lot of golf, and one of the Golf Digest editors hit the ball in a spot that was really. He said that's the worst spot you could hit it here. It's like dead there. And he's like, "What do I do?" I was like, "Here's what you do." And I said, "I think this. I probably got this from Tiger. When you have a really tough spot in golf, when you hit it to the spot that's the hardest, you tell yourself, this is going to win me the Masters one day, this shot." And so how often do you get to practice? So when we're golfing and we hit it into a tough spot, what do most people think? It's not good, right?
Absolutely.
Bad break. Oh, I can't believe this happened. It's in a divot. It's behind the tree. It's a really tough shot. How can I get up and down from here, etc. But if, on the other hand, you realize the truth that principle number one of inner excellence is everything is here to teach me and help me. It's all working for my good. Something that we all need to memorize, in my opinion. And so you realize the truth is not only may this not be bad, it might be the best thing for my golf and my career for this shot right here. Even if I don't hit it great, if I can embrace the feeling in the moment, it's going to make me better and more prepared for the next time. Am I ever going to be in a situation where I face a difficult shot under pressure in the future? Yeah.
And acknowledging that this is a wonderful opportunity to embrace this feeling, the fact that actually I've created a situation where I'm feeling this feeling, what we what I'm hearing is we want to lean into that. Practically, Jim, what does embracing the feeling look like? Is it breath work? Is it again being present to acknowledge it, to stay still, to shake our bodies? What does it look
Well,
like
yeah, there's
practically?
there's there's two parts to it. One is doing what you can, using a tool in the moment. I'm not feeling present. I'm nervous. I'm stressed. I'm angry, whatever it is. I'm not how I want to feel right now. What do I do right now? We would use a tool. And so that's one thing that you do in the moment. The more important thing is your mindset for that moment. And you said, how do we embrace it? Well, it's recognizing that, okay, I'm really uncomfortable right now. And the most important thing is not the result. So this is the mistake that I've made way too many times, and most people make, is the thought is the most important thing is the result that I get right now, and I'm so stressed and anxious and afraid. It's not looking good. It's not looking good. Oh my gosh, this is going to be so hard. It may go bad. It may go bad, and that's because we're so caught up in the result. I got to get what I want, and I'm afraid it's not going to happen. And I'm so tense. How is it ever going to happen? And that's the big mistake. The solution is to say, look, I don't know what's best for me. I really want this, but I do know what's best for me. I don't know what's best for me result wise, but I do know what's even better than getting a result is learning to embrace the feelings of these moments so I can get better at these moments. And I embrace that by like saying, okay, I'm really uncomfortable right now, and walking through these steps in my mind. Okay, I really want to be successful, but what I want even more is to get better at these moments, which means not backing away from the feeling. I'm going to feel the feeling, and I'm going to sit with the feeling. And even if it doesn't go away, I'm going to sit with these nerves, and I'm not going to like stress about getting rid of them. Am I willing to have this fear, anxiety, stress all day, even if it never goes away? Because if you're not, now that's doubly scary. But if you are, now you've got a little more freedom. And then, of course, we start to use some tools like Padraig Harrington. He told me that when he won the British one year, he had a mantra that he in the playoff, and that he repeated in his mind. A mantra is something that you repeat, a phrase that you repeat over and over to help yourself, generally help yourself be present, or to help you instill a belief. And so a mantra is really helpful. Deep breathing is very helpful. I could share with you. There's endless amount of tools that you can use in the moment.
Yeah, maybe if there was something I could reference our listeners to, we'll attach it into the show notes. Jim, I interviewed Professor BJ Fogg, the author of Tiny
Mm,
Habits,
yeah.
on the podcast a number of episodes or a number of seasons ago, and his mantra in the morning is, "Today is going to be a great day because I am going to make it a great day." Uh, Kind of empowering himself with that self agency that regardless of what happens, I'm going to make this a great day.
Yeah,
And
the first hour of your day is so important. Having
yeah,
routines, ideally, no decisions the first hour. That's the goal.
what are some of the non-negotiables for you in terms of routines, rituals, practices? I mean, your year has been absolutely crazy since you know, you mentioned it. What was it? The January the 12th of
That's
this
right.
year, whenever AJ Brown was reading your book on pitch side, and that scene went viral, and all of a sudden Jim Murphy has come to prominence. What do you do now in the whirlwind of this fame? What are some of the go-tos for you?
Yeah. So the other day I was actually before I was telling you about going into Manhattan for 2 days, and I had these interviews, and I was like, man, that's a stressful thought. All of the logistics around these next 2 days, and driving into Manhattan during rush hour, and just a very busy time of life. And then I remembered as I was walking into Whole Foods, I was like, oh, you were getting caught up in logistics and circumstances just a moment ago, and so I was starting to feel stressful. That's because you were um, caught up in that. The number one thing is your energy, your trust, your faith, um, who you're becoming. This is the key to your life right now, Jim. Like the logistics, the circumstances, the results, those all are temporary transactions. They come and go, and that's up to God. That's not my responsibility. My responsibility is my heart and my effort. And so that was really important reminder that I had the other day.
How are you feeling about the whole um, process of kind of building a business now around inner excellence and the work that you do? I know that you host retreats now. I mean,
Mhm.
you're starting to build a team. How has that been? Are you feeling? Is it a mix of excitement and stress in the same measure? Uh,
Yeah, no stress. The stress that I have is um, when I've, like all of us, we live in a world that's 24/7 transactional, and can be, happy if you get the good transactions and results that you want, and happiness being a positive temporary feeling based on getting what you want, good circumstances, and unhappiness when the circumstances aren't good. And so the stress that I've had is when I've gotten caught up in that, which is, it's like a 747 going from well, maybe not a 747, a smaller plane going from Dublin to Galway. Um, and it's using this GPS and it's constantly off track, and it constantly brings itself back on track. And that's how we should be understand that we live in a world that's obsessed about things out of our control, these results and circumstances, and we're going to constantly get sucked in, but we just bring ourselves back to it. um, and my life has been this incredible gift. I never expected this to happen. The book, I had an inner excellence. I mean, I had um, a mantra or affirmation in my phone for years. I'm a New York Times bestselling author. And for 15, 16 years, the book had sold total copies. I never found out. I mean, I'm sure we can find out somehow. My guess is 8 or 9,000 over 15, 16 years. It was great because I was had a great life working with clients all over the world. But as far as sales goes, people ask me how many sales. I was like, I don't know. I just know it's not a New York Times bestselling book yet. And then it happened. Um, and so um, my life is now it's going to be in 29 or 30 languages within a year or so. And I'm now a resident of Spain, and hopefully we'll be in Dublin more often, and Galway. Um,
I hope so.
yeah, I love Ireland, and the people of Ireland are amazing. I have great friends in Ireland, and in fact, Jude O'Reilly, who was a caddy for Henrik Stenson, he's kind of like one of the guys that helped launch Inner Excellence all those years ago, introduced me to Henrik Stenson, and um, yeah, I'm so grateful to be able to share this message and to be on your show.
Well, um, it's been an absolute honor to host you on the show, Jim, and that brings us nicely to our close. Given the fact that you have Irish parentage, grew up, I suspect, listening to lots of stories, and your mum, which we didn't get into, but your mum is a descendant of one of the last samurai, which is just incredible. So, given your parentage, given your incredible upbringing, given the experiences you've had as a professional athlete, now coaching professional athletes, as an esteemed author, as a coach to many business leaders, can you share with our audience three timeless takeaways?
Yeah, I'd love to. Um, well, right now there's so much fear and anxiety and tension and violence in the world, and there's so much out of our control. And um, when you watch the news, we want to be very careful. Well, inner excellence is really about living a fully engaged life, heart, mind, and body, unattached to the results of what you want to achieve, because you're not even sure if it's best for you. So we've got to be really careful about what we fuel our heart and mind with. And the news is especially, because the news, the whole saying goes, if it bleeds, it leads. It's a negative thing. And so we want to be very careful. If you really want to be aware of what's going on in the world, then read it instead of watching and listening to it, because we've got to be really careful about negativity if you want to achieve anything great in your life. And the world really needs you right now. Um, the world really needs people that have a purpose beyond themselves and want to live a fully alive life, and people that have courage. And you are what the world needs. There's no one in the world that can bring what you have. There's no one that has your experiences, your background, your relationships, your um, trials and challenges that you've been through. Every listener and viewer, um, no one has what you have. And so that's what the world needs, your true self. And when I say your true self, the part of you that's willing to sacrifice your will, your desires, your life for others. Um, and understanding that selfless is fearless. When you sacrifice for others, that's where joy is. And joy is the foundational pillar for self-control.
The hairs are standing in the back of my neck. It felt like you were speaking directly to me. The world needs you right now. And that's a wonderful message for all of our listeners who have ambition to scale and scale with purpose. Jim, you're on this incredible and very deserved whirlwind of success. For those listening, you not see me hold up Jim's incredible book, Inner Excellence. I encourage you to go out and get a copy of this. This is the most gifted book that I have made this year so far. I keep buying copies of this, Jim, and gifting it
Mm.
to others. I think it's such a wonderful book, and I'm going back again for the second time into this. Um, what's next for you? You mentioned you have another book that's coming
Hmm.
out.
Yes. And so I actually released a book that's on available on Amazon now called The Best Possible Life: How to Live with Deep Contentment, Joy, and Confidence No Matter What. And it's a book on the spiritual life, and it's also a summary of inner excellence. And it's got there's a model called the Three Worlds model that I share with every client, and that I was going to put in the revised edition of Inner Excellence, the 2020 edition. I was going to put it in there, but it's just the book's already over 300 pages, and it would just make the book too long. And so I put that in this Best Possible Life book. Um, and So it's already been released, but that's getting re-released. That's why I was 12 nights in the cabin in New Jersey just a week or two ago, because that's getting re-released on March 31st. We've made some changes to it, and I think it's going to be. I'm super excited for that to come out. We also have an Inner Excellence workbook going to come out in 2026, and then my newsletter. So I have this. I was writing articles every first and third Friday of the month since May of 2020, when I re-released Inner Excellence, the one AJ Brown's rating. Um, so I wrote that every first and third Friday for 3 years, and then 2024 I took a break. I only wrote it a couple times. In 2025 a couple times, but we're going to start that again regularly. It's going to be twice a month coming up. You just go to innerexcellence.com and sign up for this free newsletter where I just share the same ideas I'm telling you about, share that, what I teach my clients.
Brilliant. I really look forward to reading The Best Possible Life. Given my love for inner excellence, can't wait to get into that. You've mentioned innerexcellence.com. Jim, anywhere else you would signpost people to if they want to connect with you, if they want to learn a little bit more about your work?
Yeah, I'm on social media. You go to Instagram, Inner Excellence Jim Murphy. Send me a message.
Jim, I wish you every success with everything that you're doing. I know 2025 has been a wonderfully crazy year for you so far. I I wish you continued success with all that you're doing. It's just wonderful. It's so wonderfully valuable. I know you have spent so much of your life, uh, doing the deep inner work, and it's great for people like myself to be able to access that now. So thank you. I wish you every success. Take care.
Yeah, thank you so much, Brendan. And so thank you so much for allowing me to connect with my Irish heritage.